I saw your speech and it made my mom cry. When I was like flying here, I was on the same flight with the Zimbabwe Cheetahs, the rugby sevens team, and I hope she's okay with me talking about this. Okay, I won't mention who it was, but like it was a lady there, and she was like, oh, I was telling her, I did school, and I was showing her a picture of myself, and she was like, that was you? It was a picture of me in the blue gown. She was like, you have no idea. Like she started tearing up next to me. She was like, you literally inspired me. Just last week, I had someone send me a Instagram request, and then they sent me a DM, and they were like, Munu Nawanu, you inspire me. And so it keeps following me up until now, which I'm really grateful for. I had someone tell me, I always like to ask people where they first saw that video. I had someone tell me their mom saw it in a Tupperware group on WhatsApp. Tupperware, like the lunchboxes, juice bottles, and stuff like that. I was like, what am I doing in a Tupperware group? I'll take it. So yes, I was so overwhelmed.
Miss Sharon, thank you for being gracious with your time and patient with my tardiness.
That's okay. You should stop apologizing for that, POA, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, your time is expensive.
It is.
So.
It is.
Yeah, we all want to buy time.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you want structure. You want an age.
I didn't say. I mean, just to feel it out, just to be like, okay, what is it like? You know, like when people talk about, oh, I'm a corporate baddie, I'm a corporate girly, and I'm clocking in, and my like this office politics, and my boss was like,
yeah.
I've never really experienced that, and I'm curious to know what it's like. It seems toxic though. But yeah, very curious.
Yeah, I've never experienced that like in a big ass setup.
Yeah.
My company is just small, and I work from home like almost all the time.
I love that.
So it's like I would love to be in a space where there's like a lot of people too.
You think you would thrive in a space like that more than in a smaller team?
I love people. I love community. I love noise. That's why I want to move to New York. It's like,
oh, lovely.
Something is always happening.
Oh my god.
Even though I'm part of it.
You would love it. You would love it. Yeah. I think that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to come here as well.
Yeah.
It's just chaotic. But it's a good chaos. And I don't like, there's always something happening anywhere, and you get to be a part of that, even just as an observant, or an observer. So yeah, like I definitely love that about this city.
Exactly. That chaos.
Yeah.
Soon.
I know.
Soon I'll be done.
Maybe it's a Zim trauma thing, because we grew up in chaos. But
you know what I think? I always think that, because I'm like, in Zim, I would come from school. Like I used to go to NAST University. And I'll come back from school, drop off my bag, and go to the shops. Just sit there with the guys and just watch people come to the store.
Yeah. There's always so much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a random uncle doing Borodil dance in the corner with the scud in his hand.
Yeah.
And the Goga's selling muchairos. Like, there's a lot going on.
That's community for you.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, I remember I watched, like, something that you were talking about, like, New York hustle culture compared to, like, maybe where we're from. Like, we're more communal and more faith-based. And cities like New York or America in general take that away from people. Do you still hold that view?
I don't think I phrased it that way. But I get the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think culturally, the United States and the West in general, I think we've seen that they lean more individualistic than they do communal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, we can always get into the nuances of it all, but I think other communities like African and Eastern traditions are more communal, more family oriented. And this is something that I've been really obsessed with. I'm not sure like how familiar you are with like theological terms, but there's this whole idea of like exegesis, which is like it's a way of reading the scripture, interpreting it in its context. So who was the writer? Who was he writing to? What was happening in that particular community, right? So Paul maybe is telling the people like, you guys are believing in philosophy too much. We're not preaching philosophy, we're preaching Jesus. So that's it. So when we read that and we understand that context, like we're doing like exegesis of scripture, there's a separate thing called cultural exegesis, which is doing the same interpretive exercise, but on a culture. So you're looking at cultural groups of people to be like, okay, what do these people value as a community? And so when you compare like Manhattanites, people who live in Manhattan, versus like maybe people from Zim, you will find that in the realm of like, what do we value, even to the point of like idolizing it, they're different. So in African cultures, I've seen we idolize marriage. Like it's the thing that we aspire to, and it's the status symbol that we have, I think. And you'll find the same probably in Eastern cultures, which are communal, because family is the thing that matters. So if you do get married and you do have kids, then like you're doing well in life. But no one is really as concerned about you maybe selling 10,000 tickets to your comedy show. Like we don't, like, okay, good for you. Like, and I'm talking maybe think of our parents or grandparents. They're like, okay, good for you, but like, where's the wife, right? Whereas what I've seen in Manhattan, I don't think the thing they idolize so much is like a thing like marriage or something that's family oriented. It's very much career. It's very much career progression. It is wealth accumulation. And so like those cultural patterns, I think, are informed by the way our traditional like geographies interact with different values. So for us, I think it's family, it's communal. And here, I think it's more like individualistic, which is like status and wealth and career, and fame and popularity. That's very nuanced, but it's
I used to say this when I first came to America, like 2 years later. I was like, I never used to think about financial freedom and escaping the matrix and all those things, you know, until I came to America. I don't think I wasn't privy to, you know, making it in life.
Yeah. Why do you think it was never on your mind when you were back in Zim?
And I'm thinking, speaking to what you're saying, it's like you're around people who, for the most part, you have a nice family and you guys are doing it with whatever you have. Yeah. And that is success. Yeah. Here it's like grind. You know, hustle.
Put in that 60-hour work week.
Yeah. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, sleep at the office. Yeah.
Also opportunity too. It's like if you it's like it's there. It's possible more than it is back home. So it was kind of like that. I was like, but do you think there's a middle point? Has it affected how you navigate your life? Because it's like, I'm saying it's like two like fighting cultural things.
Yeah. It's definitely made me question what my personal values are, because I know that I'm more career oriented than I am family oriented. And I think that has to do with many things. Like I've been called a type A personality. So overachiever. These are things that feedback I've received from people. I wouldn't want to call very funny. I wouldn't want to call myself that, but like I definitely do exhibit traits of someone who's very much like go-getter. So I felt very comfortable when I came to New York. I was like, great. I'm around all the crazy psychos who are just grinding. Being at Columbia was one of those things for me. It was like, suddenly I am not top of my class. Whereas in undergrad, I was top of my class for the most part, like graduated top of my class. So it was like, okay, easy. It wasn't easy. Like I did work hard, and I think God definitely gave me the grace to be able to function in that manner. But when I came here, everyone was top of their class where they were coming from. So now we're all just like it was exhilarating for me. And I wasn't trying to like compete and be top of class. I was now just trying to enjoy education for education's sake, because I was surrounded by people who think far more critically than I do, and who question my assumptions and who challenge me. And so I loved being here for that reason. But I also think may have fallen into a trap as well of like, okay, now that you've done Colombia, what's the next best thing you can do? If you're on this trajectory of like upward progression and aiming for the best possible thing and for the highest possible thing, what's the next highest possible thing you can do? Like, you can't just be a random Ivy League graduate and not go and work for a big law firm or work for, you know, maybe big tech if you were doing like tech studies, or finance, like go to Wall Street. It's like, okay, those are now my only options. And I think that was a trap because without really evaluating what I value as a person and what impact I want to make, I think I could have easily gone that route because I'm naturally wired for that kind of chase. So when it came time to be like, okay, what roles am I applying to? I really applied for roles, to be honest, which was, I think, reckless. I probably applied for like 10 jobs. I had friends who were applying, doing like 50 applications a day for like throughout the summer. Like there was no summer break. I was out cycling, having a good time.
Yeah.
But like, and it's obviously tough as an international student. You have to work really hard to get a job that's willing to sponsor you and things like that. And so I definitely understand like the position that many of my classmates were in. I think I was in that same position as well, but I couldn't bring myself to apply for those roles that fit the archetype of the high achieving person because I knew I would hate it. Like I just knew I would not be energized by it. Yeah, because I have different aspirations. So, and my aspirations, I think, are more Africa facing. So that was the internal conflict that I had. And I think I'm now moving in the direction that I'm really happy about. But that was a big conflict that I had, which is like, I can fit this role. I fit the archetype. I can go into the industries that like the high achieving people go into. But I also have a really deep longing for working in Africa and doing, like creating some kind of impact where I'm from. And it's an either or. I can do work for Africa from here, but it would be nice to be around my people. Yeah.
What do you mean by like work in Africa?
I love that.
Like the charity, or
No.
like there's bigger things?
Bigger things. So, well, I don't want to say bigger things. I don't know what's big in this case. But when I was at Columbia, I took time to write a supervised research paper, so kind of like a thesis with a supervisor. And okay, let me backtrack. There were hardly any classes that were Africa related, and understandably so. We're at a US institution. I thought I could find a few that are like emerging markets focused, and there were a couple, but like they clashed with other classes that I wanted to take. So I was like, how can I make sure my master's, so I did a master's in law. How do I make sure my master's at least incorporates something that's Africa facing? And I'm going to define what Africa facing is. So I decided to use my thesis to do that. I was like, I have freedom to write about whatever I want to, and I can at least produce some kind of paper that has an impact on the work that I want to do back home. And what I'm really interested in is energy, like energy development and infrastructure investments. And so like electrifying Africa. This is like my current obsession.
It's like, it's all the way from what you started.
Exactly.
I'm like,
and that's why I was so conflicted, because it was like, based on my academic and professional history, I should just be going to a law firm. Like, no questions asked. Just get into that. But I also had these aspirations that I don't know where they came from. Like, in a large part, I really do think like these are just desires that God has put on my heart. But they're not really related to any legal work. I have 2 degrees in law, and like, I don't really want to be working in the law, right? But it's not wasted. And I'm really grateful for the time that I had. So what I'm currently focused on is like infrastructure investments. And essentially right now, 600 million Africans have no access to electricity, which obviously yes, you could say that's a big charity issue, but it's also just like a commercial issue. Businesses need to function, mines need to do mining, and we just need to keep the countries going. But without electricity, we're just not getting anywhere. And so I wanted to figure out what the barriers were that were stopping us from being able to electrify the entire continent. And I just used like Zimbabwe as a case study to study that. And one of the major issues is just a lack of investments, a lack of financial investment. And by financial investments, I mean like I hate that we're talking about this. I want to get into like Friedrich Nietzsche, but it's okay. Like, let's get into it.
This is interesting, actually.
Let me tell you. Okay, let me finish. So you can have a World Bank.
I'm interested about Nietzsche ideas. Really.
I don't have any. I know that you do, which is what I wanted to hear. Yeah.
Okay.
So you have like a World Bank, a development financial institution, or like an Africa Development Bank, say we're going to lend to Zimbabwe $100 million for you to develop a 60 megawatt power plant, solar power plant, and that'll hopefully electrify some of the spaces that are not electrified. But $60 million might not be enough. So $100 million might not be enough. So Zimbabwe will go to maybe Standard Bank in Zim and say, hey, we need your help. Can you give us like this amount of money, or invest and we'll give you equity? So Stanbic will say, fine, we'll give you $10 million. And then Zim will be like, okay, great, we need more money. We're going to go to Old Mutual, the pension fund. Can you give us $10 million? We'll give you equity in this project as well. And those are all different ways of financing a massive project. Because typically, if you're going to develop an energy project of that scale, most developers are not financing it themselves. They're going to have to source financing from different places, lenders and investors. And that's what I was really curious about. I was like, okay, where are the lenders and investors? If they exist and they have the capacity, why are they not investing in development projects in Africa? And that's what my research was really focusing on. And there's many reasons for it. Like, I was focusing on the legal and regulatory part of it. So it could be currency fluctuations. Investors just don't trust that they'll be able to recoup their investment. Zimbabwe's had over, I think, 5 currencies in our lifetime as a country, and probably over a span of like 15 years, which is crazy for an investor. They're like, I could be investing in something else. You want me to invest in that? Crazy. Number 2, these agreements, like power purchase agreements, are designated in local currency sometimes. So they'll say, okay, it's going to be in ZiG. Investors want their money to come back to them in US dollars. How will Zimbabwe have enough money to give us back the 20 million United States dollars that we invested? So it's currency. It is designating contracts in local currency. A lack of government guarantees. It is a lack of regulatory infrastructure that makes investors feel like if there was ever any defaulting party, they could get legal recourse from like courts or arbitration institutions that can help them. So an investor's like, I'm just not going to get into that. And I think that's a really whack reason. Like, not on the investors' part, but like we can fix that as countries. And as governments, we can fix these issues. And that's not to say it's an easy fix. It's complex and it's complicated. It's different ministries. It's Ministry of Energy. It's Ministry of Finance. It's the Presidency's office. So, yeah. So infrastructure investment is basically figuring out how we can find the money we need to develop the infrastructure we need. And the infrastructure we're talking about is energy projects. And seeing as we're being told to kind of move away from oil and gas or move away from coal, at some point we need to incorporate some renewables into that. We need a mix of both. And I think we have absolutely what it takes to do that. Like, Zimbabwe is in a great place to do that. Solar PV, wind, hydro. So there's great opportunity on the continent to electrify the continent, but there's also great opportunity for investors to invest in work that I think can give them some really good return, a bang for their buck. Yeah.
I've always, maybe I have what's this, like, immature understanding of the whole thing. But at the top of my mind, I was always thought it's like lack of political will.
Gotcha.
In the most to the
for the most part.
more than anything.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. And that's a valid one. It's also a valid reason. I think the high level issue is just a lack of trust. It just seems too risky. And so the political situation increases the risk, the currencies increases the risk. So yes, that is also a really valid one too. And I just didn't write about it because I don't know how to fix that.
Wow, this is interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have loved to participate in this research.
Right. Yeah. So I'm, really just fascinated by that work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. You were talking about how, you felt like after being in Ivy League University, doing like 2 master's degrees, there was this pressure of,
I only have 1 master's degree.
Oh, 1 master's? Yeah. 2 degrees, sorry. Yeah. Which is a lot of school. But then, go ahead, girl. Slay.
Thanks, Peter.
You're saying that there's kind of like pressure to be like at big law firms and stuff.
Yeah.
I got to know about you from the viral graduation speech, and I was like,
that's crazy.
I need to have you on the show.
That is crazy. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, for sure, man. Do you think there might have been the same pressure, given now that there's a spotlight around you of some sort? Could see, okay, where is she now?
So what's happening next with this girl?
Yeah, like...
Oh, for sure.
After, that electrifying...
Yeah. That was a good pun, by the way. I don't know if it was intended.
Daughter of the soil.
Yeah.
Speech.
Thank you, first of all. The story about that speech is also just another crazy one. But yes, like I had never experienced, like I've never received that much feedback from people till this day, Pee-wee. I meet people who are like, I saw your speech and it made my mom cry. When I was like flying here, I was on the same flight with the Zimbabwe Cheetahs, the rugby sevens team. And, I hope she's okay with me talking about this. Okay, I won't mention who it was, but like it was a lady there, and she was like, "Oh, I was telling her, I did school," and I was showing her a picture of myself, and she was like, "That was you?" It was a picture of me in the blue gown. She was like, "You have no idea." Like she started tearing up next to me. She was like, "You literally inspired me." Just last week, I had someone send me a Instagram request. And then they sent me a DM and they were like, "Munu Nawanu, you inspire me." And so it keeps following me up until now, which I'm really grateful for. I had someone tell me, I always like to ask people where they first saw that video. I had someone tell me their mom saw it in a Tupperware group on WhatsApp. Tupperware, like the lunchboxes, juice bottles, and stuff like that. I was like, what am I doing in a Tupperware group? I'll take it. So yes, I was so overwhelmed, and I think I had this. I must have had some pressure to be like, okay, how do I justify all of this like great reception I've received from people? I have to pay it back by like making sure I choose the right career and be like, guys, we're still doing okay, And naturally, big law is the thing that makes sense, or just, working in law makes sense. And I didn't want the questions of like, so why aren't you working in the law? Like, why aren't you in the legal field? That's what you studied, no? Because at that time I was still figuring it out, and I was still a bit conflicted about, do I want to go back home? That was one thing. The other thing as well, I think the biggest pressure for me was people being like, "Why are you back in Zim? Like, we're trying to escape you coming back. Well, why are you back in Africa? If I were to go to another African country, we're trying to escape." Like, some people say the Zimbabwean dream is to leave, right?
I've read about that too.
Have you?
Yeah.
You see, so it's like a real thing. And so for me, I think I did receive pressure from the speech, but I think the more pressure was like, we're trying to leave, dude. And you got the Ivy League thing. You're close to the law firms. Why not just go there? And And I think having to explain myself is just something I didn't want to do. So, yeah.
Would you ever go back like and leave and see what would be the conditions for you to just like
I've always
live it out there?
I've always said my ideal would be to have the flexibility to live between Zim and some other location that I really love. Right now it's New York. I would love to do both. I love Zimbabwe. I love being in Zim.
Yeah.
It's a hard place to be in. It's not even a thing that I can romanticize. It's a hard place to be in. But it's home for me. Like I was telling you, I've been really nomadic over the last couple of months and also really trying to philosophize on like, what does home sound like? What does home mean to me? And I think Zimbabwe is the only home I've ever really known. It's fun to be in New York, but right now I'm in like the apartment that I lived in throughout school. I don't have a backyard. Like I have to walk out and go to Central Park to be in a yard. Just simple things like that. Like grocery shopping is a whole job. I don't have an in-house laundry unit. I have to go to the laundromat and do my laundry. Like time. It's just too much. So yes, I would love to be in Zimbabwe. It's just a question of when.
I think that's the flexibility I also want.
Yeah.
Just enough money to just leave in Zen and live in America.
Exactly. Yeah. Would you move back anytime soon? Funny.
I mean, yeah. If everything was good, like I had all the money I want, just like live in Zim comfortably and be back here easily.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the same thing question about home.
Yeah.
Trevor Noah was saying this at some point that for him, home is wherever he makes home.
Okay.
So he carries a home with him to wherever he goes because he's always traveling and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
For me, home still struggles to be here.
Yeah. I've heard that. And I've wondered if that could be true for me too. But I've struggled to feel satisfied with that. Home is where I am. No, home has to be a physical place for me.
Yeah. And
it doesn't have to be an existing physical place where I grew up, but let it be a physical place that I establish myself if I like.
For real. Yeah.
Also, I love the bookshelf behind you. I meant to say this earlier.
Oh, yeah. This is my fake aesthetic.
I love that.
Do not believe everything you see on the internet.
Sure.
I haven't read all these books. I haven't read all this.
Yeah.
Do you like reading?
I'm
sure you like reading.
I love to read.
I've heard you talk about Timothy Keller at some point. Wow.
I was just telling someone about Timothy Keller yesterday. Yeah, I'm a fan. When I first moved to New York, and I was thinking of which churches to go to, I went to Redeemer. It was one of the churches that I tried out. One of his churches that I think he founded here in Manhattan.
So I tried reading, what's his book? Making a Case for God?
Christianity. Yeah, Making a Case. The Case for God, I think is the name. I've never read that one before.
Making Sense of God.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I read like the first chapter. It was really interesting. But then I even wrote an article about it. I haven't gotten into it yet.
Why didn't you finish it?
But it seems like
Why didn't you finish it?
Oh, so this is me. I've interacted with a lot of philosophy. So much so that I don't respond to just typical sermons that are given to everybody else.
Right.
That sounds like motivational speeches.
Gotcha. Was the book motivational speaking like?
It wasn't going deeper in terms of the analysis I wanted.
Gotcha.
Like, I want you to refute philosophical ideas in a very convincing way.
Okay. Maybe you should read Why I'm a Christian by John Stott. Really short read.
Yeah.
It's not...
that wasn't on my reading list as well.
Yeah. It's not very deep, but I think it does touch on some of the like more abstract philosophical concepts.
I assume you're very religious.
I believe in God and I'm Christian. I don't know what very religious is like, but yeah,
church girl.
I've been called that before, and I don't know if I like that term.
You don't like?
No,
you don't like the term? I take it back.
Take it back. But yes, yes, I believe in God, and He's my Father and my friend, and I believe in the Triune God. Yeah.
Have you struggled with the faith? You know how a lot of people, when they move to a different country, coming from a very religious setup like Zimbabwe, the religion just goes out the window. It's kind of
I always tell people this. I thought I was coming to New York to go to school. And I found Jesus in a more profound way than I ever could. Like, my time in New York was more me rediscovering God. And I'm even uncomfortable using the term rediscovering because I don't think we are the ones that find him. He comes to find us, or he reveals himself to us. So that was not my experience. And I really think like God brought me here so that he could meet me. And he just gave me the Columbia thing just to be like, I know you really wanted this. I'll give it to you. So yeah, I got baptized again last year at like the church that I eventually like settled with here in New York. Because I was really questioning who is Jesus for about a year or so. So let me start in 2022 to answer this question, because I did have some kind of like a breaking apart of what I believed, and then God kind of rebuilt that. So 2022, I think let's start COVID times. I was barely going to church, I think, because it was COVID, so we weren't going in person. It would be online. And then 2021, the same thing. I was living in Harare and was hardly going to church. I had never really lived in Harare. And then I moved to Germany at the beginning of 2022. And I was like, okay, let me try this church thing again. And I went to Hillsong maybe twice with my friend, and then we just stopped going. And so that entire year, I was mainly going to church. Finished Germany, went back to Zim like mid-year. And this was my first time going back into church when the churches had just like reconvened. And I started having this like question about who is Jesus and why should I care? And that I know sounded like a really harsh question, but the intention was not that at all. I just wanted the simplest question possible to just be like, who is Jesus and what does that change? Why should I be invested in whatever that truth is? And so I started to ask people that question. I asked my friends, I asked my mom, I asked a Bible teacher that I know of. She's like an aunt of mine. And she sat me down and she quoted the first 2 chapters of Colossians verbatim. And the first chapter of Colossians is basically establishing the preeminence of Christ. And then she said to me, I want you to read the book of John. She took me into Hebrews, where it was just really kind of talking about Jesus as the new high priest.
Is this your mother?
No, this was my an aunt of mine, Auntie Winnie. Let me name her, Auntie Winnie. Okay. She's like a family friend, but she's also like a Bible teacher. She was like, I want you to read the book of John. So I started to read the book of John starting end of 2022, right? And I would journal. I just don't have the journal with me. It's somewhere in New Jersey. And I'd be like having questions. Okay, I see what Jesus was doing. And the book of John is unique in that, unlike the other gospels that are giving an account of everything that Jesus did with the disciples, the book of John, like John did this really particular thing where he was writing to show that Jesus is the Messiah. And because the Messiah, it was prophesied that a Messiah would come. And so he writes 7 accounts of when Jesus said an I am statement. So I am the door. I am the bread of life. I am the truth, the way, and the life. I am the vine. I am the good shepherd. I forget the other 2. And the other 7 things that he writes about are the 7 miracles that Jesus made. And he was using this to kind of prove that Jesus actually is the Messiah. Like, he's not just man, but he's truly God himself. And I didn't know this theologically at the time. I just was reading it. And then April 2023, I want to say, okay, end of 2022, I applied to Columbia. I'm like, this is the only school I want to go to. I'm going to apply to it only. I applied. If I don't get it, I don't get it. I don't get it. That was 18 December. And then I panicked. I was like, what if they don't take me? Because they're really strict. Let me apply to NYU. They'll take me for sure. Like, sorry to all NYU people and alumni. They did not take me. NYU rejected me. But like, Columbia took me, right? And so early 2023, I'm waiting for my response from Columbia. I don't know yet if I'm in, but I'm still reading through this book of John, right? And I start watching videos on YouTube, trying to find teachers of the Bible that are just exegeting scripture, like I talked about earlier, really passing through the scripture to explain the redemptive story of God. And just like you said earlier, I was not looking for the regular preachers, right? I was looking for people just doing it properly. Well, not properly, but in a way that speaks to my brain. And I came across this video of these 2 dudes talking, and like one of them must have been like an Australian. He had an Australian accent, so I thought, okay, it's like some Australian church. And I was like, this is really good. Let me, like, I remember that video even till this day. I could find it for you. And then April comes. It's almost Easter Sunday. It's Easter Sunday now. I was sick, so I didn't get to go to church. So my mom went to church. I was at home alone. And I remember playing the song Agnus Dei by Donnie McClurkin. And in that song, they sing about like, worthy is the Lamb, right? And I remember just like being overcome by like, just, I don't know. I just started crying and I couldn't understand it. Like, I just started chimsing. So I'm crying. I'm on my knees. I'm chimsing. And I just felt like the tangible presence of God could be felt. God is omnipresent, so I know that he's everywhere. But I think there's some moments where you can almost feel it tangibly, that like, okay, God is in this place. And it's something that I can't explain logically. But that's what I felt on that day. And then I finally get my Columbia acceptance. I moved to New York, August the 8th. And I started looking for churches. That's the Sunday of that week. I went to 4 different churches that I was looking through, and I had 4 criteria for the kind of church that I wanted. And it was, I wanted a church that was theologically sound. So I wanted a church that really practices teaching its congregants to read the Bible theologically and not just as a pastime. And, you know, churches where it's not the pastor who's given this like mantle to exegete scripture, really people who teach us to be theologians ourselves. And then I wanted a church that was Christ-centered. So a church that would point me to Jesus and not give me scripture to placate my own internal issues or to justify my own poor living or my own desires. Like, I wanted a church that was teaching Jesus and the Christ crucified, right? The third thing was I wanted a church that was culturally diverse. And then the fourth thing was I wanted a church with a sense of community. So I wanted a church that I could go to on Sunday, but during the week we can meet and talk. And because I also think God works a lot through small groups or like through small communal gatherings. So if I can come and confess my sins to you as PUA, and I feel comfortable because we have that relationship or we're in a small group, I think God does a lot of like sanctifying work when the brethren clash and work and move and fellowship together. So I needed that. So the first church I went to was Redeemer, actually. I went down to the Redeemer downtown church. I was super excited to go. Theologically sound, I knew it would be. Christ-centered, I felt that the sermon that they preached really was, like, pointing me to Jesus. The third thing, it was not as culturally diverse as I wanted it to be. And I also didn't feel like there was a sense of community. So no one really asked, like, do we have any new people here? How can we, like, connect with you? Right? So I left. The second church I tried was in near Times Square. I think it's called the Big Apple Church. It was in like, and these were like good churches, incredibly culturally diverse. I had a Jamaican woman come to me, I had a Nigerian, like there were white people, Hispanic, like so many cultures. It was incredibly community oriented. Like they checked up on me. They were like, do you want to grab a coffee? Let's meet up when you can. Let's help you settle down now that you're in New York. I felt that it wasn't theologically the kind of palette that I was looking for. But then again, that was a Sunday where the youth had just come back from camp. So the youth took that Sunday service. So I really couldn't judge that. And then the fourth thing was, I'm sure it was Christ-centric. I just couldn't tell. The third church I went to was one that was recommended to me. It was in Brooklyn. I forgot the name of the church, but it's a really big church. And I think the pastor is like Denzel Washington's like personal discipler, like pastor, mentor, something. What? Yeah, he's really good friends with Denzel, I've heard. It was a large church, predominantly African American, so not diverse the way Big Apple Church was. I felt like it was not as theologically dense as I wanted it to be. It was very preachy. So they preached, I wanted to be taught. I feel like that's how I receive. That's how I learn better. I want to be taught. I want to feel like I'm in a lecture versus like being preached at and motivated. So it felt a lot like that. And that sense of community, they were like, yeah, if you're a visitor, stand up. But that was the end. There wasn't like a follow through to be like, hey, if you want to join us during the week, we meet at these times. Cool. So that's how many churches? That's actually 4 churches. So now we're in September. I've tried 4 churches, and I like the apartment that I stayed at with my housemate. We're in the Upper West Side, so right next to Central Park. So I was looking for churches online, and Instagram kept giving me this church. And I was like, I don't want to go to this church because the name was so basic. I was like, I don't trust it. I will tell you the church on the side though, but I just don't want to say it out loud. But it was like such a basic name. And I was like, I feel like Instagram was only giving me this because of like the location that I was in. But in any case, I was like, fine, I'll go. And so September 17th, I walked from my street to the church. It was like 30-minute walk. And when I walked in, people were having coffee. It was an 11 a.m. service. People were having coffee just before the service. And I saw a guy who was having coffee. And after I saw him, I was like, I know that guy. Then we went in, the service started, and he was the same guy who came up to preach. And I was like, that's the dude from the YouTube video I watched back when I was in Zim. The guy with the Australian accent. Like, what is he doing in New York City? That's crazy. And it so happened that he's been in New York for over 20 years. And he's not based in Australia. And the church was culturally diverse. Big sense of community, incredibly theologically sound, and pointed me to Jesus. And that's where I eventually stayed and got baptized and became a member. And just being in that space, I think God did a lot of transformation within me about who Jesus is and why I should care. And so he answered that question. And then in the summer of last year, after I graduated, our church did a series for 9 weeks. We went through the book of John. We did nothing else but just walk through the book of John. And that's where we did the 7 I am statements and the 7 times that Jesus did signs to kind of prove that he's the Messiah. So obviously many more signs that he did. And John says that in the last chapter, John 21, that we will not have enough books in this world to fill up everything that Jesus did. But being able to, having spent an entire year in New York, it's now the summertime, and we get to walk through the very book of John that Auntie Winnie had asked me to read back when I was questioning who Jesus is. And then after that 9-week teaching, we went into an 8-week teaching about why we should trust the Bible. Why do we trust it? Just based on history, anthropology, archaeology, and also just based on divinity, just the divine nature of God. Why should we trust this text? And that works for my brain. really receiving teaching that way really works for my brain. I know the Lord does a lot of work more spiritually that I cannot see, and it's invisible. But that's just how I'm wired, and he communicates to me that way. And so that was my experience here in New York. Yeah, it's really changed how I view a lot about church and Christianity based on what I've experienced and seen in different churches back home. But yeah, that's a gift that I'm so grateful that God gave me while I was here.
Wow, that's a beautiful story.
I love that story. Thanks.
Wow, that is enough for a church now.
I'll put you on, Pee. When you move to New York, I'll put you on.
When I come down to New York.
Trust me. Yeah.
Well, so I think for a lot of people, maybe we're coming from Africa, like them, our morality is kind of like informed by Christianity.
Yeah.
To a greater extent, even if those people are outside Christianity when they get healed, something like that.
Right.
Do you believe that, like the universalism of morality, to say, even those people who are outside Christianity, and say the Muslim, or like those people who are just Stoics, and that's their whole thing. Do you think there's a universalism of principle throughout Christianity and all those people, so much so that they can also be saved, even being outside Christianity?
Okay.
Because you know how people always damn other religions and say theirs is the supreme.
Right. That's a big contentious topic. It sounds like you've asked me two questions. I think the first one is about the universality of morality, and the second one is, in light of that, if it exists, can people then be saved, right? Even if they're outside of Christianity. I do think this is something I've never actually thought through, so I'm figuring it out as I talk to you. I do think there is a universality of morality because God has just created us in that way. And so he's embedded within us some kind of moral code that helps us discern good from bad. And, people always give the example of like when kids do something naughty when they're, like the parents are not looking, they do it like in a really hidden way because they have an inkling, I shouldn't be doing this, right? They haven't been taught 10 commandments or whatever other principles might exist in different religions, but they just have this innate understanding that like this, I should not be doing this. They run away when they've been caught because it's like, I did something wrong. So I think that's embedded in us. But I think that I don't know God's mind concerning this, but I think that morality is embedded in us just so we don't like kill each other and descend into like decay. So it's helpful to protect us as a form of preservation. But as a question of whether that will then give us salvation, I don't think so. Based on what I believe as a Christian, I think Jesus is the only way. And I think believing in him is the only way. And it's a matter of not just saying words that like, I believe Jesus is the Son of God, came, died for my sins, rose again, and conquered sin, death, hell, and Satan, and, has made me righteous. I don't think the words alone do it for you, but I think it's faith, like actually believing those words, which is why I'm so big on like biblical literacy, because sometimes we misrepresent what the Bible actually is. We think it's like a book of fairy tales, just different stories packaged together, versus one story told across timelines, which is a story of redemption. Is that then to say that if a Muslim, a Hindu person, a Buddhist, maybe an atheist who really believes in Stoicism dies and they were a good person, I don't know what good person is. Like even Jesus talks about this in Mark, I think 10:18, where someone calls him good teacher. And he's like, don't call me good. There's no one good but the Father. Does that mean those people are excluded from living in eternal like life with God or entering heaven, as people would say. I don't know. But I know for me, I believe that if not for believing in Christ, I don't think I'm going to make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Hey, I have very strong views.
Tell me.
What do I think? I kind of believe in, I don't know about salvation outside Christianity, right? But I hold a strong view that as Christians, there should be no othering of other religions and proclaiming of Christianity as a superior religion
Okay.
for how we assume a moral code or a way of life.
Okay. I have a question on something you just said.
Yeah.
You're against Christians proclaiming Christianity as a superior religion. Does that equate to Christians proclaiming Christianity as the only way to eternal life with God, to heaven?
Yeah.
Okay, so that exclusivity you think is a form of asserting superiority over other religions?
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you.
For like, yeah, I'm a car. It rubs me something because I feel like God is everywhere and even in every other religion. And for the most part, we are lost in the interpretation. Some people interpret scripture literally. Other people just think, oh, scripture not exclusive to Christianity. It's just metaphorical stories from which we can like extrapolate lessons.
Gotcha.
And all those things. And like there's this argument by, I don't know, you know Sam Harris?
Yes.
One of the biggest
I
atheists.
love Sam Harris's book, Lying, is one of my favorite books. And so when you told me the truth about what happened this morning, I was like big love for period, because I hate like lying. I really hate lying and like deception.
Oh wow, this is a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
God, if this is how I make it to heaven.
Let's get you in.
This is how
Let's get you in. Please come with you.
Yeah.
What does Sam Harris say?
So he has this argument. He was having a debate with Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know Jordan Peterson.
Of course I do. I was obsessed with
I don't
him
like
back in
him
the
though.
day. Yeah. I don't like him these days. Used to love him back in the day.
But I respect him. He's one of the people who got me like, you know, it's Christianity and kind of.
I actually have an issue with the way Jordan interprets the Bible, but that's another story. Let's talk.
Yeah, that's a difference. Basically, you're saying is, so his argument, Sam Harris, is like, what I'm saying is that like people can construe morality outside religion.
Okay.
Which is Immanuel Kant.
Right.
I
love that you mentioned that. I used Immanuel Kant's theory as a theoretical framework in my undergrad dissertation, in conjunction with Ubuntu as a theoretical framework as well, which was interesting to do. But tell me more.
Sounds like interesting stuff, man. In conjunction with Ubuntu, I'm now interested how.
I'll tell you about it.
So yeah, that's the thing. So Sam Harris is like basically that, like we can construe morality outside religion because religion is kind of like gatekeeping for most people, sometimes even oppressive religion, opium of the masses, that kind of thing, you know, which is like, I'm like, that is possible to some extent because like we're saying, we don't know what good means,
right?
But by intuition, as human beings, the same way you're saying like kids, they'd be like, I can't do this. You can be like, this is kind of like a good person, even if they're not Christian. And I think it should be counted for them towards righteousness, whatever that means.
Got you. Okay, I have a question for you. Okay, I get the sense that, based on what you've just said, especially about morality being, you can construe it based on whatever religion you're in. It sounds like we're equating salvation and Christianity with moral philosophy. So we're looking at Christianity as just another way of deducing what morality is.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see it that way. I think for me, so Christianity itself, I think, can be seen as like a philosophical subject, but Jesus as a person, I don't see as a philosopher. I see as God. And I think there are implications to acknowledging that he is God, because he said certain things that suggest and imply that there is only one way to make it to God and to be reconciled with the Father. So I think what Jesus's life plays out is not a moral philosophy that he's teaching, it's salvation that he's teaching. Although I can see how in some circles, the Christian doctrines can be seen as moral codes, right? Don't steal, don't kill, don't whatever, do this, I do that. Don't lie, like be kind to your neighbor, love God. Those can be seen as like moral philosophies, but I think separate from the person of Jesus and having a relationship with God himself, they're just philosophies. And I think that's where maybe the Sam Harris argument misses it, because I think as an atheist already, he's probably not even aware of what it's like to be in relationship with a real God who speaks back to creation. He's like, there is none whatsoever. So all we have are just religious texts that are trying to assert some kind of moral way of living. Yeah.
So I guess this is what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Like, the argument fails because it doesn't speak to the tapping into the spiritual part of it, spiritual realm.
Yes.
It's just like how we interact with each other, but negates the relationship that you have where faith is an object that manifests things into existence outside normal occurrence.
Right.
Those kind of thing.
Yes, and also I think it's seeing the Christian faith and its texts as literature that's a part of a wider database of literature on moral philosophies. Whereas I see the Christian Bible as God giving us a story of redemption about what he is doing with us as man. And so I'm reading it not just as a moral text, but I'm reading it to understand his redemptive work and how he's trying to bring us back to himself, because that's what happened in the beginning. We were separated because of sin. And so he created a plan of redemption to bring us back to him, because he's holy and sin and holiness cannot coexist. And so I'm seeing the Bible telling a story of what it's like for us to return to him. The laws or prescriptions of how to live and how not to live, I think are really just evidence of what manifests in behavior and action when a person is committed to God and is in relationship and in fellowship with him. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Why do you find... I get it, right? I understand it. I understand it very perfectly. I'm just like, on a personal level, given this whole argument around religion, right? Why do you find it important that that distinction exists for you or for every Christian in general?
That's such a good question.
I like how you take your time to think.
Yeah. I'm trying to be like, why do I? Because some of these questions have never been asked before. I've never asked myself either. I
feel like I'm also asking myself these questions.
Right.
Same time.
So you're going to have to answer that just now. I think for me, okay, number one, let's just talk about how I'm naturally wired. Okay. I like to know why things happen the way that they do. So I tend to go through like a teleological reasoning, like what's the purpose of a thing? And Aristotle actually, I think, talked about this. It's either him or Socrates. And what was it? It was an example that he gave about playing a flute. So he gave this example that like when we have a limited number of flutes and we want to give it to people, the best way for us to decide who to give the flute to is to ask, what is a flute for? And so once we know what a flute is for, we need to find out who is the best person to do what the flute is for, and we give it to those people. That's a teleological reasoning. Why does the thing exist? And we give it to them. And so like if you're going to apply it to like maybe land distribution in a country, the question would be, what is land for? And then we're going to give people based on the ones that have skills. Of course, it can get nuanced. You could find that only like in a country like Zimbabwe, I love that we just diverted, but I'm going to come back. In a country like Zimbabwe, you might find that white farmers are the most skilled. And so ultimately, they're going to be getting all the land, right? Yes, presumably because of our history. And yes, they might be able to produce as much that they can so that the country can benefit. But we would have to kind of figure out how we can distribute it fairly, especially in light of the fact that they had a head start and some didn't. So I'm always reasoning that way. Why does a thing exist? So that I can be more effective in engaging in it. And I think that's why God had me. I don't know if I was asking this. Well, it's mixed. Like, I think the Holy Spirit does bring about curiosities within us, but we also have what it takes to be curious too. So it's like a mixed thing. That's why I started to ask, who is Jesus and why should I care? Because I think I was practicing religion, but I wasn't embedded in the redemptive narrative. Like, I wasn't embedded in it. Like, in my consciousness, I wasn't aware that like, oh, like there was a Messiah who was to come and he came. And I get to talk to him. Like, he's there right now. He exists. And what does it look like to actually live with him? I was just doing Christian things. So that's the first thing. Telos is always guiding me. Number two, I think that distinction is important because I also really believe that not only does God exist, but Satan does as well. And as the father of lies, he's incredibly skilled at manufacturing complex lies and machines of deception. And I think the deception that the enemy purports is so nuanced that it almost looks like truth. And so if I can get clear on why Jesus is God and why Christianity is not just a philosophy, but it is a way of living a life like a real savior did so that I can be reunited with him, then I will be able to determine what isn't Christianity when it pops up. Because I think outwardly we can practice it. I'm a good person. I go to church. I read my Bible. I pray. Yes, maybe I dabble in like wanting to hear what my ancestors have to say about my life. But like it's all me seeking truth. I think like there's a bit of deception in that because there's only one way to truth. Like Jesus himself is the way, the truth, and the life, capital T. And it's only the Holy Spirit who leads us into all truth, as the word says. I also need to understand who God is. Is he one God, one person? Well, is he three persons or one God? Like some religions call Christians, like they say our religion is a polytheistic religion and that we worship many gods. But we don't. We worship one God who is three persons. And I think it's important to determine the distinction between each person because they play a specific role. It's not arbitrary, actually. And I've had instances where I've felt like the thing that happened to me in April of 2023, on Easter Sunday, like when I was in my room, I felt like the presence of God, but I also had like an inner feeling that like, this is Jesus, like coming to be like, you've been asking about me, I'm here. I know the Holy Spirit speaks to me quite a lot, and so does the Father. And this was another thing that led me to ask, who is Jesus and why should I care? It was, I felt that I had a relationship with the Father and that I prayed to him because Jesus was like, we pray to our Father through Jesus. And I felt I had a relationship with the Holy Spirit because it's the helper that Jesus left for me. But I was like, okay, and you, JC, what are you doing present day? Like,
JC.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing present day? I don't feel like I have a present day relationship with you. I have an understanding that you did something for me historically on the cross back in the day. Okay, you lived, you died, were buried, rose again, ascended into heaven and are sitting at the right hand of the Father. What are you doing now? Are you just sitting, waiting to come back? Do I get to talk to you today? Or is it just me, the Father, and the Spirit? Like, so I've really had to like grapple with like, what does it look like to engage with the different persons of the Trinity, yet still engaging with God altogether? And And I have many questions that I don't have answers to. Like even the one that you just asked me, like I'm still working through it. I don't know why it's important, but like telos, like this is how I'm wired. But number two, like I think it's how I can best like engage with God and be able to identify when deception pops up, because I've seen the truth himself.
You're still tuned in to the Pen and Pulse podcasts.
Yeah.
The whole symbol. Whoever's gonna watch this.
Screaming. Maybe I should be like, I should just.
If we don't bring souls to Christ by this with this attitude,
We're playing. We need to do an all night. Let me come to Connecticut. We need to do an all night prayer. Like,
yo, a whole night.
yeah. Why do you think that distinction is important for you?
I don't want to answer.
Okay. No pressure.
I think you've done a very beautiful.
Okay.
Have you seen that Key and Peele skits where they're doing like Martin Luther King, and then there's a guy you have to speak after him? Okay.
I haven't, but I can imagine. The girl was like, nah, I'm good.
I'm sure you can imagine.
Hey, I'm good. Y'all be easy. I'm good though, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, like you're saying, I think yours is deeper. Mine is maybe just on a. Mine is like when I was reading the first chapter of that book, Making Sense of God by Timothy Keller. Right? He makes this argument that even if you're not religious, when you're listening to a beautiful piece of music, Jordan Peterson also says this. There's this feeling that you get that people often describe it exactly. It's spiritual, transcendent, it's heavenly.
Yeah.
You know? And to some extent, that is evidence of the supernatural that you can't deny exists just by saying, I'll live a good life,
Right.
do good things and good works.
Yeah.
And then that is a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good.
And like you're saying, the devil exists.
Yeah.
So, and I believe that most things, because there's this thing that I was going to ask you this, but you know how there's like, I think it's even in the Bible, where I think Paul talks about it, where it's like, other people succeed, but they're not in Christ.
Yeah.
And you being in Christ doesn't necessarily mean you're going to succeed, you know? But when you look at it, zoom out, you might find that just because you have a successful life in human definition doesn't necessarily mean it's a fulfilling life.
That's
why you find that our mothers back home and our grandparents, even without more, were very satisfied being religious. Of course, now it's overboard.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can get overboard for sure. Yeah.
But I could see it because my grandfather was an evangelist. I could see how it's a beautiful life to tap into the spiritual realm of it.
Oh yeah.
Not just assume that you try to be good, which is virtually impossible.
Exactly.
To be a saint.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But you can feel sanctified and satisfied even though you're a faulty human being, which we all are.
Exactly.
And some people miss out on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's something that came to mind, as you should, Pure. I think another reason to really figure out the distinction is because I used to have a pastor that always told me, Pastor Stan, shout out to him, the number one thing that all or most religions argue about is not whether Jesus existed, but it's a question of who was he. And so a Muslim is going to tell you, like, of course, like Jesus is in the Quran. We respect him, right? He was a good teacher. I think they probably see him as a prophet as well. Other religions will tell you, we respect that guy. He was a good moral teacher. And this is one thing that C.S. Lewis says, that like, Jesus could have been one of three things, but nothing else. You cannot relegate him to the stage of just a teacher because he said some really outrageous things, right? I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Like, drink my blood and, and eat my flesh as bread. I am what satisfies. just so many bizarre things that like you will find eternal life through me. And C.S. Lewis said Jesus was one of three things: either a lunatic, a liar, or he was Lord. Because only a lunatic is going to say crazy things like that. If he actually wasn't Lord and the Son of God, yes, we can see a lunatic saying the things that Jesus said. Or he was a liar and he was just like claiming to be a Messiah, claiming to be the way to be reunited with God. Or he actually was Lord, right? And there's no other option. And I think even like Jews believe in Jesus. They believe that he existed. They just don't believe he was the prophesied Messiah, right? And so, and this is why I was talking about redemptive history earlier, because it's a way of seeing the Bible and reading the Bible and understanding the work that God has been doing from the beginning of creation, right? Or even from before creation. So as opposed to reading the Bible chronologically, like we won't really understand that story that I'm talking about. But what we see happening is that creation takes place. It's a perfect world. There is no sin. Adam and Eve get to fellowship with God. And it's loving. It is love being exchanged from one to another, from creator to created or to creature. But then they sin. And sin necessarily separates them from God because sin and holiness cannot coexist. It's almost like, during COVID times, we had sanitizers overselling. Sanitizer and soap was like the number one thing because it was like they kill 99% of germs. Like when the sanitizer comes in contact with the germs are dying. It's not because the sanitizer hates the germs. It's just what happens when sanitizer and germs touch each other. And it's the same thing with God's holiness and a sinful creature. It is going to die because that's what holiness does to sin. And because God loves us so much, he was like, I'm still going to come up with a plan to make sure that we can still be reunited like we were in the beginning without you actually having to die because I love you. But the wages of sin is death. You will die. And so he creates a system throughout history. In the beginning, then after the fall and judgment comes, he essentially comes up with like a law, like plans. He's like, okay, fine, I'm going to give you a mediator. Moses is going to be that guy. We're going to have priests. Instead of you guys dying, you sacrifice these animals, right? Something has to die and I don't want it to be you. So my plan is you sacrifice these lambs, sacrifice these livestock to atone for your sins. But the ultimate lamb that would have to die is Jesus later on, because obviously that model is just not sustainable. We can't keep killing the animals, right? And we need to have one lamb that dies once and for all for our sins, and there's no need for more dying. And that's why Jesus had to come. Hebrews talks about this, that he died the once and for all death because he lived the perfect life that we should have lived, but died the death that he lived the perfect life that we could not live and died the death that we should have died, right? And so throughout redemptive history, we see God then saying, I'm going to send a Messiah. He's telling us through the prophets, I'm sending Messiah to you guys. He establishes like Israel through a covenant with Abraham. And he's like, I'm going to make you guys my people. I'm going to fill up the earth. And you're going to, all nations will be blessed through you, right? And he creates laws, like he gives them a promised land to get into. And so this is all happening Old Testament, and he's telling them a Messiah will eventually come one day. And then it will come into New Testament. And I think this is where us and the Jews kind of separate. Because it's like, yes, we believed in that stuff in the beginning. He established it. He was going to save us. But Jesus is not that guy that he promised. We're saying he is that guy. And we get to partake in it as Gentiles, as like non-Jews. And understanding that story and then realizing, okay, Jesus has died for me. He's brought me back to the Father. I can come clean. When God looks at you, he sees Jesus. Like he sees you as righteous because of Jesus. And that's a free gift. Like you don't have to die. And I did this exercise a couple of weeks ago, and I was trying to do like a mental model of what it would look like if all religions were true, right?
Yeah.
And if all religions were right about what the way is. I believe that Jesus is the only way. But let's just do it like exercise between Islam and Christianity. I was like, what would it look like for a Muslim who dies and meets his maker? And then what would it look like for a Christian who dies and meets their maker? What is that day of judgment like? Because both religions have an idea of what judgment looks like, and they both have an idea of like, don't sin, do good, be righteous before your God. But the way it's done is different because Jesus is the separating factor. Jesus has done it all for us. I think in Islam, it's kind of up to you. Do it according to the law. Like, do good, do what the law says, and don't do bad. I don't know all the details. But like, so I put this thing into ChatGPT, and I was like, tell me what it would look like for each person. So I used Timothy Keller as an example. I was like, tell me what it would look like between Timothy Keller and God, and tell me what it would look like for like a Muslim and their God. And based on the doctrines of each religion, I understood that for the Muslim, they're going to have their deeds weighed against them. So their God is going to be like, okay, so let's do a little evaluation of how you lived on earth. Were you good or were you bad? Did you do more good than you did bad? If you did more bad, out of here, like you're gone, go to hell. Because that's not how I wanted you to live. And so there's a feeling of like trepidation and paranoia because you actually don't really know where you're going to end up. And maybe he could be merciful because they do believe in mercy. And the God himself like could be merciful if he so chose to. But there's a high possibility that if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, you're going to hell. The Christian, on the other hand, Timothy Keller is not showing up to that conversation in fear because Jesus has died the death in his place. So in like theology, they would call this like substitutionary atonement. Jesus died for the sins that Timothy Keller made, and he died the death that Timothy should have died. So Timothy knows for sure, like he's not going to hell. Like he's just up here, and if he like lived in step with the Holy Spirit, lived and walked by the Spirit, as Paul says, he knows for sure on that day, I'm going to heaven. Like there's no question about it. It might just be a question of like, what rewards do I get based on what I did, right? What kind of crown do I get based on what I did? But like, he's not fearful one bit because Jesus stood in the gap for him. Like he was that sacrificial lamb. That distinction is not minor. Like it is not minor. And that's why Jesus as the way is important to specify and to clarify, because outside of him, I'm standing before God and having to hope and pray that he will absolve me of my sins. He's not going to, because the only way to do that is through Jesus. And so without Jesus, I am screwed.
That's deep.
Yeah. So try Jesus.
I've just realized that your ChatGPT is overworking compared to mine. Mine is breaking down macros and Gene 4.
Nah, that's technical stuff. Yeah. I think some of it has to do with just the way my mind works. I'm always doing like permutations, conceptually at least. And sometimes I need something to order it for me. Because I can't read the whole Quran. I haven't read the whole Bible. Or I don't know all the theological tidbits that I could know. But I think it can kind of search, or if I feed it something, it can kind of search for me. Yeah, it's a fun exercise.
So I have a lot of questions about religion now.
Okay.
But I have to ask you about your nonprofit.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. This is the part where non-Christians can drop off and be like,
they're like, good. Amen and hallelujah. Where do you put in our tithes and offerings?
We got salvation, so let the heathens speak about
about whatever worldly things.
Is it still going on?
No, not right now.
Are you still running the charity?
Not right now. So I co-founded it with two of my friends, Simba Rwanika and Puai Chusi. And Simba is currently in the States right now. At the time, Puai was in the UK. And it kind of came to a pause when we were in different countries at the same time. But the last big thing that we did was, I want to say 2022, which was it was a Kofi Annan Changemaker's project. It was funded by the Kofi Annan Foundation in Geneva. And I was selected to be a part of the Kofi Annan Changemakers initiative, which basically takes every year 12 young leaders from around the world who are doing some kind of impact work and it helps you strengthen the work that you're doing by pairing you with a mentor who is typically a retired international civil servant. Well, at the time, that was the model. It's changed a little bit now. So they're taking people who maybe worked in the UN, worked in the ILO, worked in the World Bank, and they pair you based on the interests of your project, and your mentor basically, helps you scale up your work. So my mentor was like 82 at the time. He was, fantastic, Mr. Kirschbaum. And our goal was to help electrify a rural school in Goromonzi and to increase the quality of education at that school through like helping them infrastructurally and through materials. So we used our Kofi Annan funding to install a solar kit at the school, and we purchased textbooks for the school as well and school materials. And benches. We did benches as well. Which felt like really just a raindrop in an ocean of many things that they really needed, but it was a good project that I enjoyed too.
Oh, I remember my question.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've interacted with like big people and like big organizations like United Nations, and you ran a charity at some point. What do you think is the disconnect with how charity is done in Africa and Zimbabwe in particular? And maybe what are your thoughts on, the mystification of charity, Mr. Beast?
Yeah, that's funny.
They
That's
look
a funny
like,
word. Wow. The beastification.
yeah, how they look like they're doing more than our governments are doing.
Yeah.
It's like the salvation of the African child in charity.
That is a great
And
question.
if no charity, then there's no future.
That is a great question. We're really aid dependent.
Yeah.
And we're non-profit dependent. And I think there's many reasons for that. Maybe some of our systems and structures are not working the way that they should. So instead of, and this is one of the questions that I was asked at the Kofi Annan thing. They also set up a meeting for me to talk to a lady who works, and she was in the UNICEF Geneva office. And she was like, I understand that you're trying to increase the quality of education at the school, but that's not your job. That's the government's job. Why are you doing that project? How would you scale that up? And I was like, yeah, we'll continue to get donations. We'll help build the school properly, because it was an abandoned house, like a farm school. So it was an actual house that was turned into a school. And I was like, yeah, we actually went there with like, I forgot what you called it, but he helped us do like a bill of quantities of like what needed to be done on that school, infrastructurally.
Yeah.
And she was like, that's not your job. What I would advise you is, sure, finish your project. But once you're done, shift into policy and advocacy. You should be going into parliament, and based on your experience with these communities, giving parliament recommendations to say, hey, we think you should do this. You should come up with a policy that ensures this. Maybe it's making education free for kids up until a certain age. But for you to be purchasing textbooks for schools, that's not your job. That's for the state to do. Which at the time I was a bit offended. I was like, girl, you don't know how things work. You think I can't do it? I'm trying to build schools, But she was right. It's not our job to be doing that. I think these institutions have propped up in response to a need, right? And you find it even in the energy sector. It's not non-profit work at all. It's completely commercial. But the Zim government, like this, is saying, hey, listen, the ZETGC is saying, we need electricity. We have this massive demand. I think Zim has almost like a 2,000 megawatt capacity demand. This is how much we need. And we're far below that. And they're appealing to independent power producers to be like, we need you guys to help us. So yes, we have the Kariba Dam. We have our hydro project in maybe Vic Falls and Kariba. We have which I think is, I can't remember how many megawatts. We have our coal mine in Hwange, which is like, at the time was 600 megawatts, but I know the Chinese added something there too. But we still aren't meeting our demand. So we need you guys. Piwe, come and build your 100 megawatt solar power plant. Sharon, come and build your 100 megawatt hydro plant, right? Wind farm. And then sell that electricity to us as the country, as ZTDC, and then we're going to give it to our consumers. And so there's a need. and people prop up. And I think nonprofits are the easier thing because they don't have to deal with like tax issues. Whereas if it was a company coming to try and solve that same problem, they would have more issues to deal with. They're trying to make money. They need revenue. And like we talked about earlier, I think the economic situation in the country makes it a harder business case for businesses to be like, we're going to come and solve that problem and make money at the same time. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why it's happening. Personally, I don't think it's the best way to go about it. And we just need to strengthen our institutions. I think we need to empower our citizens to be able to conduct business, build businesses that solve community problems. And they're not community, even to use the word community, like there's problems in the country. They need to be solved. Businesses can do that for us. Like maybe like Tesla or like Meta or Facebook or Target. Like these are all solving different problems. And ultimately, I think that's what most institutions are aiming at, to solve problems and to make money while they do so. And so I can appreciate that nonprofits are doing incredible work on the continent and in our country, but I don't think that's what's going to take us out of the lack of development that we're facing and the poverty that we really need to alleviate.
So the policy advocacy avenue was never...
Not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me, no. I think I could do it.
Being your core, like...
I've heard people say this to me. I think I have what it takes. I think I do have the skill set for it, but it's not what energizes me.
Yeah. And
I think I'm currently, based on my decision model, I think my values is what informs the decisions that I make. So I would be able to do policy, but like being energized by my role is one of the top things on my values. And so I wouldn't go that route. I also am impatient.
You're impatient?
Yeah. I have to wait for you to pass the bill and speak to the parliament. And no, I want to see it now. Hey, if I tell you, do this now, let's do it now.
Oh, yeah. No, you wouldn't work as parliament. You'd be frustrated.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
You grew up in Mutare. Like, one of the things that I was attracted to you about your story is like, we kind of like had a similar childhood. You grew up in Mutare. You said you lived with a lot of cousins.
Yes. When did I say that?
Yeah, like, yeah, I've been reading.
Oh my goodness. Peewee! This is so good. Wow.
Yeah, I've been doing my research.
I love that. Yes, I did.
So you grew up in a very big family. Mm-hmm. You did public speaking debate, which is what I did too.
Oh, cool.
You were a very big person. Deputy head girl, debate president, inside club,
Screaming. Right? Yeah, I was.
You know, all that stuff. How would you reconcile your life now with your upbringing and like how you're transitioning and being successful, even in Namibia, when you're in college and stuff like that? Like, do you feel like you are doing justice to the young person who grew up like around a lot of people? Or maybe no pressure? Or
don't make me cry.
How do you think it informed some of your decisions? Like, you're moving away from law, getting into energy, you know, charity, but you see, like, okay, you know, how do you think that young person
That's a really
sees
great
this
question.
version of you?
Do you know what? Yeah. Recently, my mom sent me a picture of me at like maybe age 4. And one of my mom's closest friends sent it to her. And we were at a random birthday party. And there was a cake on the table. And I was looking at the cake.
I think I have one of those pictures. Everyone did one.
Everyone needs one. It's like a canon event. Like, did you live as a child? Or like, no, if you don't have one of those pictures, you were not born. Like, you just came to Earth as an adult. And I think like, it really had me reflecting on like, wow, I was a kid once and I had aspirations and I had natural inclinations. I wonder if I am following the trajectory that those inclinations set for me. I think probably yes. I hope she's proud of me. I think that I was always a curious kid in my youth. I'm still very curious. Curiosity is one of my core values as well. I don't know if I knew I would get this far. In upper six, I wanted to be an international lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer that travels and that does cases internationally. And I got to do a bit of that when I was in Germany. I was working at the European Center for Constitutional and Human Rights, which basically sues countries and corporations for human rights violations, which is in international law. And I loved it. It was great. I was really grateful that I got to be at that stage. But... the other thing also, I wanted to study social work. I wanted to study social work and law. I think I always had a bent for justice as well. A natural bent towards justice. I remember being maybe 15, 16, and my mom was driving me to school. I went to Hillcrest, and so it's a 14-kilometer ride out of Ntare town. And we were driving past a road that had terrible potholes, which, you know, we can all relate to as Zimbabweans.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I remember like the car just doing a lot of this, and she was telling me with age, like my shock sound with the shocks of this car going through a lot. And that's like, I'm learning about shocks at that age because the road necessitates conversations like that. And I asked her, if your car dies as a result of the road, can you sue? Like, what happens? And she was like, yeah, maybe you could be able to sue like the municipality or someone in the city council. I don't know.
Really?
I asked her this. And then I said, okay. Is there a job out there where all you do is sue state departments? And she was like, yeah, like it's being a lawyer. And literally my first introduction into a legal role was being a public interest like lawyer. And public interest is essentially you're not representing companies, you're representing individuals that have experienced some kind of violation as a result of state action. So you're suing state departments. And I was obsessed with it. I was like, we have to hold these people accountable. And it was the same thing again at the ECCHR. We're holding countries accountable because they owe us something. And I think even now, I still believe in that accountability. But I'm happy to do it maybe from inside the state, possibly. Which is, what do we owe the people? Or if it's a company, what do we owe our customers and our clients? If it's a private equity firm, like what do we owe our investors? Like accountability and justice can still be seen in so many different avenues. It doesn't just have to be in the court. So I still think that drives me. It's just not into the law, the legal field. I always call it the law. I don't know why. It's like such a noble thing, the law. But yeah. I do think she might not be so surprised that this is where I'm at.
So you feel like you've checked most of the boxes that you may have had when you were younger?
I don't think I had many boxes when I was younger, but I do think I followed the natural trajectory that would have emerged. But thanks to the grace of God, I really could have ended up elsewhere, to be honest. Yeah. I could have really just worked in a regular law firm job and called it a day. I don't think that's kind of what I'm going for.
You said, I think you were like, where you are now is like a foretelling of where you could be or something like that. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember
like,
that either.
Like what I'm trying to find out is you saying like young you would be proud, but how would you say somebody is a young you and they're looking up to the older you? Like what would you say to them in terms of like the trajectory of life?
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Because we have a lot of expectations. There's places where we want to be.
Yeah.
We want to control stuff.
Yeah.
You know, all these things.
I don't know if I could give them some kind of prescriptive method to follow because I didn't follow one. I think there was a lot of trial and error in between. I'm also trying to think of where I'm at right now that young me would not be happy that I'm at. Just so that it's a balanced answer. Yeah, I think my young self would be disappointed that I'm not writing anymore.
Oh, you're right.
I used to. I really would love to get back into it. Yeah, I think my younger version would be really disappointed that I'm not doing that anymore. And I think my younger version would also be disappointed that I'm not as carefree as I used to be. I'm a lot more calculated and measured. Yeah.
Does it not come with age?
I think it does, but I don't think we should succumb to it. I think we should fight against it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think young me would be like, you're not even putting up a fight. You know? So we need to work through that. But in terms of like what steps to follow, I have no steps. I would just say figure out yourself. What do you value as a person? Yeah. Really? And I've mentioned core values quite a bit on this call because I think that's kind of what drives me. Based on history. And so how do we figure out what our core values are? The way I've learned it is to look at the times in the past where you were super frustrated by something or where you felt super fulfilled. Those typically point to a time where you were, your core values. So an example is when you're really frustrated by something. So maybe like this morning and you were super frustrated when you eventually woke up and you're like, crap, like, and maybe it might even continue to frustrate you during the week because I think that frustration is valid. But like, let's just say it's a lingering frustration beyond the norm.
Yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity to investigate that frustration because maybe it's pointing to the fact that a core value of yours has been violated, whether by you or someone else. And we can kind of, if we can ask the right questions, we can uncover what that value is. So maybe it's a value of punctuality, or maybe it's a value of respect. But like that frustration is communicating to you that a core value has been violated. But the same is true for when you feel most fulfilled, right? And so like right now, like this conversation, I'm having the time of my life. And I know, and I know that now because I've kind of done the exercise, that feeling of fulfillment is communicating that a core value of mine is being honored, right? And with enough questions, we can kind of figure out, okay, what is that value? Is it meeting new people? Is it spontaneity? Is it novelty? Is it, self-centeredness? Maybe because you're asking me questions, but I know for me, it's curiosity. Like we're going in so many different places. I love like just that kind of adventure. Curiosity is a core value of mine that's being fulfilled right now. And so I think because everyone has experienced in life times they were super frustrated and times that they felt super fulfilled, they can always look back and be like, okay, what could that have been? I once worked for a person who I think like they would call me in the middle of the night. I was kind of managing, a social media page for their business. Yeah. And they would call me and they would be like, at like 11 p.m. and they'd be like, hi, haven't you noticed that a client has sent us a DM on Instagram and you haven't replied? Why haven't you replied? They're asking about a price for this thing. And I would be like, because it's end of day, I'm sleeping. Yeah. And they had this sense of urgency. And I was like, but no, like this client surely knows businesses work from 9 to 5. We'll respond between 9 to 5 or, at a better time. But that happened so much, I would feel a lingering frustration. Not just a regular, but like a lingering one. And for me, the core value that was being violated was that of independence. I know this because when I then worked for someone else, or under someone else, shout out to Bradley, who gave me freedom. This was in a public interest firm, human rights firm. And I was an intern and he gave me freedom to work on tasks and figure it out for myself. Like I would be drafting court documents and there was a document that we needed to draft, a joint expert report, which we had never done before as an institution. He was like, figure it out. And I would figure it out on my own. And he was like, but you're always welcome to come to my room if you need support. And he would give me that support. But he never micromanaged me. And I felt so fulfilled then. Again, independence and autonomy, like mixed together, was being honored then. So that's how I figured out what my core values are. And so I think like if people can do that kind of internal introspection, examination of themselves, they can figure out what their values are and make decisions. So why we figure out our values is so we can make decisions that honor those values. Sometimes they clash. Okay. So maybe I'm super curious and I'm also really committed to independence. They talk about autonomy. And then because of curiosity, I want to always be talking to people all the time. And that might mean I want to work with people all the time. I want to ideate. But when that person then tells me, do it this way, I feel like my independence is being like stifled. So sometimes you have to figure out which value should precede the other. but yeah, you get to make decisions based on that. And I think like me figuring out, it helps you figure out what kind of friendships you want to have. I grab curious minds like gems, like infinity stones, because I know it fuels my curiosity, right? And so, I would say figure out who you are based on your core values, and ask God to talk to you about it. And maybe observe the people that you think are really cool. Maybe also interrogate why you think they're cool. Maybe it could be for the wrong reasons. But like, if you're really like, I aspire to be that kind of person, I think they're really cool. Figure out what they're doing and what it is about what they do that might set you alight as well. But it's trial and error. And I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. I was having a quarter life crisis just the other day. So, yeah.
In a different universe, there's a Sharon who's a clinical psychologist.
Literally, I wanted to be a psychologist when I was a kid. I wanted to be a psychologist or a biologist or anything that ended with ist. But psychologist was at the top of the list.
Wait, what? Anything that ended with ist?
Yeah. It sounded so good. And I was like in grade 1 at the time. I was like, dang, there are words that end with ist. Biologist? I'll be that. Psychologist? Sign me up. Yeah.
I wanted to be a lawyer when I was growing up.
Really? I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I flunked. They pushed me into like the science class.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, nah, you're good at sciences. Which I wasn't really the best, but I could do it.
Yeah.
Then my life took a different trajectory.
Interesting. So in another life, you would be a lawyer?
Oh, definitely. I loved
love
Suits.
that.
Did you watch Suits?
I did.
I used to love it.
That's good.
That was me seeing my future. I was
You
like
also
in high
love
school.
to read.
Oh, yeah. 2 more questions.
Yes.
Then I can free you from the shackles of my questions. Yeah. Favorite book?
Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky.
You've read Crime and Punishment?
I have like 3 versions of it. It made me cry.
I'm still scared
Oh,
to read it.
I get it. Like, I want to get into the Brothers Karamazov, like his last book. I'm scared to get into that. I'm not ready yet, so I get it. Why are you scared?
Yeah, I still feel like I'm not ready either.
Yeah. What would make you ready?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. But, I read books on... I think maybe you have the same thing. I read books on mood.
Good.
So
What's
like,
that?
what am I trying to get?
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
Sometimes I'm really on my hustle thing, and then I'm reading copy. Sometimes I'm on my Afrocentric,
Gotcha.
Why Nations Fall.
I get that.
Stuff like
have
that.
you read that?
Why Nations Fall. Yeah.
I have the book, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, sometimes I'm on my clinic, I'm on my psychology, and then I'm like delving into,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm on my African literature.
So what are you on right now?
I'm investigating algorithms. I think this is what I'm fascinated about. Like, I feel like which I was going to ask you about your incognito lifestyle, because you're very hard to find.
I know.
And
I told you this. Like, I was so impressed that you found me. Did I tell you this?
Yeah,
I did. I was like,
it's intentional. Like,
Yeah.
hard to find. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm counted among the greats. So I'm fascinated by algorithms. I feel like, it gave me the impression that you are not someone who's always online, like always on the socials or stuff. I don't know, because you're saying you have an Instagram, which I was like, wow, good, right?
It's up now. It's mostly deactivated throughout the year, but like I've had it for like 2 months open right now, which is the longest we've done in a while.
Well, so digital minimalism.
Tell Newport.
Exactly, stuff like that.
I love that.
Attention. I like how we pay attention to what you pay attention to, basically.
Right.
So just get yourself off the apps.
Yeah.
And especially for someone like me who's a creative, right? I like writing, I write. Free yourself from external opinion, which is always noise, like the news, social media, which is something that you never used to have back in the day.
Yeah.
Like you have 1,000 people voicing out their opinions, and you don't have freedom to think outside of that. and basically some revolution to say sometimes you don't realize it, but they are making you addicted to this thing. Because it's
the dopamine addiction is rough. It's rough. Are you on social media?
I've deactivated my Instagram, which was like the biggest one, but I'm struggling with Twitter.
I get it. I used to be on Twitter. I used to be crazy there, but yeah, I get it. What do you think is making you struggling with it? Is it because you just now have like neural pathways that are so like...
I like things. I like to know what's happening around me. So I was struggling with Instagram, but now I deactivated my Instagram easy. It's easy. I don't have Instagram. TikTok is just like, I'm not on social media more than 30 minutes a day, basically.
I'm impressed.
But I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what happened in South Africa? What happened?
And Twitter's going to tell you.
What's happening?
Yeah.
And Twitter's going
to tell you with a few laughs in between. It's just like the perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
you're making me want to come back on there. Actually.
Hey, if you've managed to be off of it, and your life is okay without it, I think it's a good thing.
Me too.
I've tried to just be on Twitter on my computer and not on my phone.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's good.
That helps, but I work from home. I'm on my computer every day.
Yeah.
So it's easy to just open the tab
I hear
and it's like 30 minutes and you're like, dang.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried that with Instagram, but the experience is so much more boring, It's like not as fun if it's on your laptop, which I think is good. But yeah.
That's the point.
I really love it.
It's not as fun, so you just don't do it.
Yeah. That's cool.
Crime and Punishment. Now that you say it, I might really get into it.
Read it. That made me cry.
Why is it your favorite?
I relate a lot with the main character, Raskolnikov. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is a conceited thing, but that's maybe that's fine. So I see a lot of myself in him. He's a young law student going to school, struggling though in school, not academically but financially, which I have experienced, and I've talked about this many times. It's almost on the brink of dropping out. He's really obsessed with like reading these like philosophies and ideologies, and at the time he was obsessed with what's that French guy, Napoleon. He was obsessed with Napoleon, and Napoleon had these crazy ideas that like if you are one of the greats, like it's really exclusionary, so it's othering. If you're a great person, then you are absolved from the kind of moral repercussions that come on someone when they do something wrong. So they don't feel anything bad, or their conscience is not affected when they do egregious things because they are great people and they're excused from that. So Napoleon would kill people because he's like, I'm great and it's for a greater cause. And so I'm absolved from experiencing that kind of internal conscious conflict and guilt and shame. And so Raskolnikov is like, maybe I'm great too, right? But the only way I can test it is if I do something that's typically known as immoral and egregious, and I won't feel anything bad about it because I'm great. And so I'm really summarizing it very fast. There's a pawnbroker, an old lady who has a ton of money, but she's very mean and he doesn't like her. Mind you, he's a poor kid. He's going through a lot. His mom and sister are in a different town. His sister is about to be married off to a really rich guy because they just don't have money. Single parent household. And he decides, I'm going to kill the pawnbroker, tickle her money, distribute it. Like, I'll keep it and I'll also distribute it and just help my people. And he kills the pawnbroker, and then her niece walks in and he had no choice but to kill her too. So he like killed them both. And immediately he steals some money from her. He doesn't even end up stealing what he was going to steal, just take something small. He descends into like delirium. He's having cold sweats, hot flushes. Like he's losing his mind. He's super paranoid. He can't walk. Like he essentially realizes I'm not great because his conscience is eating him up. And he's now having a crash out on top of that because he's realized that he's not great, like one of the greats. And so it's a story of like how he eventually is redeemed in the end. So the police start to kind of do an investigation. They're interrogating him. He's trying to like lie about it, but he just was not going through. He was going through a lot. In the end, he turns a new leaf and he's a better guy. But like, it's just, I've really just not done it a good like job at describing this book. But one of the things that happens, it's got like a lot of existential themes and whatnot. But like one of my favorite parts of the book, and then you can talk. He has a best friend named Razumihin, and Raskolnikov doesn't tell anyone what he did. He's just not eating anymore. He's gone pale. He lives in like a small small box of an apartment in a really tough neighborhood. There's a lady that always brings porridge for him to eat, and he's just not eating anymore. He's shivering. He's hallucinating as well. And his friend comes and he's like, dude, I know you're going through a lot of suffering. We all are. Like, we're from the same neighborhood. I know you. You're my friend. We all are having a hard life. But the way that you're dealing with it is exceptional, and it shouldn't be. And he says to him, this is one of my favorite quotes from the book. You brood over your suffering like a hen broods over its eggs. And even in that, you're a plagiarist. You're not an original, you're the translation. And Raskolnikov is trying to explain to him that you're not the first to suffer in this life. Of course, he doesn't know why he's going through what he's going through. He doesn't know that it's about the murder. But he's talking, so the book has a lot of themes about suffering as well, that Dostoevsky is working through. And he's like, you're not the first to suffer in this life, but the way you're brooding over your suffering like a hen sits on its eggs, you are literally plagiarizing chickens, and you're not original about that. Just like, stop, okay? Figure it out. And I think that's why Jordan Peterson quotes a lot of Dostoevsky as well, because it's a lot about like finding meaning through the suffering. It's like, I'll love that book. Love that book.
That's my next read.
You should. If you're in books to that. Yeah. What's your favorite book?
Now that you say Crime and Punishment, Final Signs, so yeah.
Tell me.
It used to be Born and Crime by Trevor Noah.
Oh, I love that book. It's hilarious.
It used to be, but I don't think I have a favorite book anymore. I don't think it qualifies as my favorite book anymore, but I don't have a book. I think for you it was set up. The first time I read it, like I related a lot with the life and the arguments he makes about just race and stuff. It was like,
it was a good book.
At the time, it was life-changing stuff for me, you know, because now when I read, I'm like, yeah, it's a good book. Yeah. It's funny.
But you've grown a lot more now. Back then, it's exactly the kind of book that would make you be like, wow, this is phenomenal stuff.
The book I've read, and I was like, it really blew my mind. Yeah, this book called The Dictator's Handbook. It's just an interesting book about how dictators come about. It just talks about a lot of politics and how democracy is dissolved with some dictatorships somewhere or the other.
That's good.
I think it's one of the books that I've read, especially it has a lot of examples about Zimbabwe, and I enjoy it. But yeah,
I love that.
It used to be Born and Crime.
Okay.
Should be Crime and Punishment.
Exactly. Like the themes, we're getting there. Yeah. Did you have another question for me?
Oh no. Maybe last question.
Okay.
What's one life philosophy? I think you've mentioned a lot about values and stuff. Maybe that could be, but do you have like a personal mantra you live by? Like a philosophy on life, and like this is your North Star. Like this is.
That's good. Not off the top of my head. Oh yeah, one of the things is just don't lie. Always tell the truth and don't lie. Like Jordan Peterson says, it's one of the rules in his book. Yeah, but I mean it even more philosophically. I don't want to ever live a life that's inauthentic, and when I do, because I do sometimes, I feel a lot of internal conflict. Yeah. So it's having to grapple with how do I want to be perceived versus how am I actually, and why don't I want to fully be me, and why am I tempted to want to create this caricature for whatever my audience is to see. So yeah, being true and honest in speech and deed in life, something I live by. And the other thing is just currently right now I'm reading through this Bible plan called the Redemptive Historical Biblical Narrative, which is why I'm kind of really big on that right now. I'm trying to really understand the Bible through that lens. And honestly, Jesus has, it just is so clear that Jesus is the answer. And I'm trying to maintain a consciousness of the fact that I'm embedded in that narrative. And so if I feel tempted to be inauthentic, for example, to use that example, I look at the narrative that I'm in and I remind myself, or ask God to help me remind myself, that He knows me fully and has not rejected me. And if He can accept me, a perfect God, then I should be fine moving in the world with my imperfections. So just trying to keep that in my consciousness, and not just as a philosophy, but to actually understand that I'm embedded in it as I live, and that it frees and liberates me.
Yeah. I hope this was worth your while.
It really was.
It's been a long time coming.
It really was. Thank you for reaching out to me. You know, I didn't want to do this.
Oh yeah,
I was like, can I do it? I really enjoyed being here. You ask phenomenal questions. I have questions for you. I have 2 questions for you before we finish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you write?
Wow. Why do I write?
Can I lay it up for you before you answer as you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Earlier we were talking about like algorithms and social media. Like we have an information overload.
Yeah.
There are many ideas out there that are likely echoed by other people that you personally hold. And if they're being expressed by those people, why should you add to the conversation if that's what you're doing when you write? Number 2, are you writing with an audience in mind, or are you writing just for the sake of self-expression?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
That's a question I ask myself.
I love that.
I better with time.
Okay.
Like I consume. Most of the times, especially when I'm writing nonfiction, it's like it feels like I'm rehashing ideas that are out there, because most of my inspiration comes from reading books, and I'm like, this is something I was interested in. I want to write about it.
Yeah.
I feel like all those ideas are out there, and I'm like, it feels like I'm rehashing stuff that's already out there. I don't necessarily have an answer to that, but I found that I wouldn't have an answer if I stop writing. So I don't know if you read this book by Austin Kleon. It's called Still Like an Artist.
No. Tell me more.
So basically he talks about like every artist is a sum of his inspirations or their inspirations. Or some of them, it's like the Beatles began covering music from like their favorite group before they even started making their own music. You know, like you start by copying people who you want,
Mimicry.
and then you find your voice through, you know. So it's like those people who say, I need to have my own voice.
Yeah.
Comedians, they say, I started copying who, like so and so and so.
Yep.
But then I figured out eventually this is where my lane is.
Gotcha.
But you find it through copying those people.
Okay. And who were you copying?
I think there's a lot of voices that I try and sound like. And some of them I don't even know, but sometimes I'm writing, I'm like, this is say Jordan Peterson kind of reasoning.
Yeah.
You know, this is like Austin Kleon kind of reasoning. This is like, sometimes it goes with the current book I'm reading at the moment. My voice switches to that sometimes. But with time, I've noticed there's been a fierceness that feels authentic with how I write. And I'm like, my mind says, write like this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to write like this. I've never seen anybody do it, but this feels like me. Just like, the worst thing you can do is prompt ChatGPT to edit your writing. It works, but it steals your voice in many instances. And that which you edit out from ChatGPT is your voice.
Right. Oh.
So why do I write? To answer the question, crowd-based.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's one thing that gives me some satisfaction when I'm done and I'm sitting. I feel like that was fun, and I feel like I had fun doing. And it takes a lot of my mind.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like when you take out writing, I feel like something is missing, and I always have this thing in the back of my mind. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to do this.
Yeah.
Which is alright.
Gotcha.
So-
That's so good. Yeah, I love the Austin thing that you mentioned. I spoke to a writer when I was exploring getting back into nonfiction writing last year, and he said the exact same thing to me. He was like, mimicry is how we start. And he was like, I keep a separate book, and he showed me the book. He was like, when I'm reading and I find a sentence I like, not just structurally, but like when I read it, it has just an impact on me. I write it down because there's something about the way that it flows that speaks to me. And he was like, with enough collections of things like that, I figure out what my tone is. And I think I will do the same. 2 more very short questions for you.
Yeah. Maybe before you this question, like to the second question, like about the ideas that are out there, it's like I don't have an answer. I still better with that. Even like yesterday, I was thinking about that. Like I'm talking about algorithms. I have a working article on my writing, and the thing is, I'm always thinking, who am I to preach to anybody about like algorithm revolution?
So why not? Why not you?
There's a bigger book that's like really more intense and deeper than whatever I'm going to write.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer to that.
I get it. And that's one of the reasons that I haven't gone back into it. Because I'm like, what can I say that's original? You know? And there's other people who can say it better than me. But then I've also learned that there's a group of people that exist that is only connected to you. Like a unique set of people that exist that will only ever hear conversations from you as a source. And you get to speak to them. And we don't know who they are, but like I also use it in the same way when like I'm thinking about who do I talk to about Jesus. Like I'm like, there's so many people talking about Jesus everywhere, but it's like there's certain people that you just know in your circles or who listen to you and you don't even know, but like they value what you have to say. My second question is, what are you? Because you said like sometimes in the back of your mind you have this voice that's like, you have to write, you have to write, you have to write. What is one thing that you could write about that you're scared to write about?
Why is one thing that I could write about that I'm scared to write about? Oh. I don't know if I've ever thought about that.
Or hesitant to write about?
I think it's usually it's generally it's like it's always feeling inadequate and the writing about ideas that are out there and have been analyzed in a very deeper way than I feel like I would ever would. I think that's always the contention, you know. But I don't shy away from writing about anything.
Yeah.
Especially if it's interesting to me, I feel like I owe it to myself.
Gotcha.
To pen it down. But it's always a contention that's like, who am I?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Who are you not?
Yeah, I think maybe politics, because it's a very toxic, and then you're like, Donald Trump is going to read your article and then you're like, don't come back.
Yeah. And then you get to Zim and then you write about the girlfriend and they're like, oh. Oh, is it? Okay. Because you lived in Connecticut, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll show you. Because you had a visa and your passport? Okay, we'll show you. We're sending you visa to prison.
It's just tired of my soul. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like do write about political ideas, but in a very kind of like
safe way.
Safe way.
Cool. Last question. What does it look like to live?
Did you prepare this?
No, it's just
or
coming
you
off
just
the
had
top.
to.
No, off the top.
Okay.
What does it look like to live a good life? Like earlier we talked about what is good and morality. What is a life well lived for you?
Wow.
Like if we had.
Thank you for coming to Sharon's podcast.
Thanks, guys. So subscribe. This is my show, guys. This is my the pen and pulse with Sharon. If we had 80-year-old Pee-wee on the call with us today, and he's telling you about like the life he eventually lived, would you be able to say that was a life well lived? And if so, how would you know? What would he have done and experienced?
See, these are questions I battle with every day. You know? Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
They're
think
really
into it.
pricking my axiom.
Let's get into it.
So I've always wanted to like journal a lot of ideas because I was working yesterday, right? I'm thinking a lot of people don't read self-help books,
Mhm.
and I understand, right? There's other people who never needed self-help. Life was a teacher for them,
Mhm.
and they figured it out and were successful,
Yeah.
right? And then there's someone else who's like, they're gonna read about discipline,
Yeah.
and then they're gonna get disciplined,
Yeah.
and then someone else was just disciplined.
Shit.
So people there's people who shame people who read about stuff like discipline and stuff. And like the moment you're reading about it, it's a problem. You just have to do it. And I always feel like maybe that's not the case. Maybe some people need to read about it or have it, you know. So I'm always trying to, I was thinking about something like I need to find all those ideas because what are we doing then? Just learning how to live a good life.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
we're always going to keep doing that. So I always try to so my thing was to amalgamate like all those ideas into like a personal book.
Mhm.
Maybe my kids will read it, like just my journal, or like, this is what I think a fulfilled life looks like
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And I always feel like it's going to be changing at every point in terms of ideas. But my biggest wish has always been, how can I define it now? And that everything else is noise.
Mm.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't have an answer yet
Yeah.
again.
Have
But
you already started writing?
I haven't started writing it.
But do you have ideas in your head about?
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas and books that I'm like I can extrapolate ideas from into it. However, I think for now, my biggest contention is money and a fulfilled life. You know, and I feel like when I'm 80 years old, it's about my goals. If I'm a successful author with published books, it would mean more than me having been at a tech job earning six figures,
Screaming.
you know, kind of thingy.
Huh.
And of course, I like the hustle. I want to make money. I'm a man.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's a toxic word,
I hear that.
but
You should say trigger warning before you say such scary words. I'm playing.
And I want to be in the upper echelons of society.
Of course.
So I need to make it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like this, I need to make it before I can do the film. But at the same time, like having a family is fulfilling for me.
Right.
Even in this hustle culture, not family-oriented society, my highest form of fulfilled life is still the image of my grandfather and grandmother raising me, and there's many kids there, and they are happy.
I love that.
And you get it?
Yeah.
So maybe those two, family and like my goals.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe a successful podcast,
Mm.
you know, because I enjoy talking to people.
Yeah.
And breaking down ideas like this, because I get to learn a lot. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, I feel like it's a necessary voice in society. Shit. Self-righteousness.
Let's say that. No, let's say it. Let's absolutely say it. No guilt whatsoever.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That was deep.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Or maybe that's
do
like,
those things.
that's like personal. Maybe you wanted to maybe more generic.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to know. Like for Pua himself, an answer that I couldn't get from someone else. You know, so that was very specific to you.
What about you? Maybe we over time. Last
No,
question.
sure.
What about you?
go
What's
for it. I don't know.
a fulfilled
I'm also
life?
still thinking about it, which is why I asked you.
You're
So
an idiot.
I thought maybe you would give me like tips that I can steal from.
Oh no, sorry.
You know, I think like one of the struggles that I have is figuring out what's permanent and what's not.
Yeah.
Because earlier, just now, you talked about how there's some lessons that you'll learn in life and realize this is important to live a life well lived. So I'm going to put it down in my journal and share it with my kids. And it's true to you right now. Will it always be true 10 years from now? And I find it sometimes when I open social media, maybe it's TikTok, maybe it's Instagram, and someone's saying, hey, if there's one thing you're going to have to do to succeed in your career, it's going to be this. And I will watch that video. And I think sometimes we can watch those videos passively and take whatever they say, as Bible. Like, yes, let me incorporate that into my life. Or like James Clear will say something, or Sam Harris will say something with such conviction, and I'll take it and adopt it for myself. But sometimes we don't look into the nuance of like, what led this person to conclude that this is a thing? Is it the upbringing? Is it the way that they interpret life? Is it because someone that they really value and honor and respect said it to them? You know, some people will come out and say, my mentor told me that you should always work like A, B, C, and D. And I wonder, is that true because it is, or is it because your mentor told you? And can you tell the difference? And so sometimes I'm like, yes, today I can believe that what matters most to me is truth and curiosity and independence or autonomy and enjoyment. And 30 years from now, I might be like, you took that curiosity thing too far. Like, look at where it landed us. We have no sense of stability. You were chasing spontaneity and novelty. Now, like if you had chosen just a regular, formal, traditional route, whatever that might look like, family, work, relationships, we would have been in a better place. And so it's hard for me to make statements like, this is what I think will make a life well lived right now, because I'm always afraid that, what if it changes? But then again, maybe that change isn't something to deny. Yeah. Maybe that's what a life well lived is. Like, if I know that I'm seeking something in earnest in the present moment based on the information that I have, and if I know that I have sought out wise counsel, maybe if it's about a job or, you know, building the right friends or building a business, and I act on it and I have integrity in doing that, I think in the end I can look back and say, yes, you did make mistakes, but you didn't do so foolishly. Whatever foolishly looks like, you maintain some kind of integrity. So for me, I think I would say a commitment to my values. If I can, first and foremost, be with Christ, be like Christ, and do what Christ did, I think I would have done an okay job. And I mean it even in like conversations like this or at work, or the ex that I really hate and is blocked, and I really want to hate him, but I know like Christ wouldn't treat him the way that I'm really trying to treat him. Like,
I can deal with him for you.
Thanks, Fiwe. That's why I came to this podcast. You know, things like that. If I can embody the truth of what I believe in against my internal hesitations, I think I'd be happy with that. And if I can, these are really abstract. I don't know what it would look like in practice, but if I can learn to receive the free gift of love from God and from people, and if I can learn to give it to the ones that I think don't deserve it, I think I would have done well. Yeah. And then, of course, like, let's get money into energy projects. I would love for that to happen. Like, I would absolutely love to do that. If we can raise capital for those energy projects and just do a massive development, you know, thing, I would be very happy about that.
Hey. Yeah, this is one of the best conversations I've had.
Yay! That's a big thing for me to hear that.
And this year, generally. In my whole life.
Thanks, Jerry. I love that. Wow. Me too, actually. I actually kind of forgot we were on a podcast. I keep seeing like recording, but like, yeah, I just feel like I'm having a great conversation.
Like, I always just let it, like, I had questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
I have like 3 tabs open.
Yeah. Yeesh.
Yeah, that's how serious it is.
Preparation.
But I enjoy when it flows the way it does, like this.
Yeah.
And then you don't know where it takes you
Yeah.
after that. You're like, damn,
I enjoyed it too.
I needed that.
And thank you for not letting me bail on doing it. Yeah,
And God wanted it to happen. Maybe you would invite you to listen to my life.
that's true. And to
Even
someone
though
else.
I overslept, God said, forgive him.
Come on. I thought we weren't going to
I
mention
preach
that.
to this guy. I'm Sharon. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being so gracious. Thank you for. I hope you come again some other time.
Absolutely.
Maybe in person when we have a bigger studio
Let's do it.
and we're New York boys.
Let's do it. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. If I end up coming to Connecticut sometime this month, I will let you know.
All right, for sure.
If you come to New York, of course you will.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for tuning into the Pen and Pulse podcast. I'm your host, P-Ray. That was the most gracious Sharon Matongo. Like, subscribe, share, and tag us wherever you're watching this podcast from.
Now tell us
Peace.
what you think a life well lived is as well. Thanks,
Oh yeah,
guys.
in the comments. Yeah, I'll be fine. Peace.